Good evening, ladies and gentlewomen and gentlemen, gentle thems, gentle theys, gentle z's, gentle people. It's been a really rough summer. And I miss going live on Instagram every day or every few days. But, you know, it is what it is. Hi, Meg Donta. Hey, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining me on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. Uh, so I did the new moon tarot divination yesterday, and before I did the video, hey, crafty palette. Before I did the video, I had like made a few written and mental notes about what I wanted to talk about in that new moon tarot divination video, but then I decided that I wouldn't talk about everything that I wanted to talk about, and I would do another video because I really wanted to get straight to the tarot. So I saved some of the astrology stuff for today. So what I want to talk about is these four stelliums that we are in the midst of. The first one. If you have the People's Oracle 2019 Sidereal Astrology Guide, you'll know that I mentioned these four stelliums that we have. And really, as I explained in the guide, when you have, whether it's in your natal chart or transiting in the sky, if you have, side note, I see somebody who ordered one of the printed and bound guides, and I did send them off today. It's just that I did not print the labels because my printer's broken, so I had to like go manually do it at the post office. So I'm going to send you your tracking numbers tonight if you ordered a guide for me. If you didn't, go order one. Anyways, so when we have these stelliums, meaning really like 3 or more planets or placements in one sign, that does not include Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Sorry, boo-boos. It means that there is a singular planet, again, whether that's in our birth chart or transiting, that is determining the narrative, kind of responsible for those planets or a large chunk of our lives. So, for example, people who might have a lot of planets in Virgo, Mercury is responsible for so many of their experiences and who they are. And so we would look to where Mercury is to see exactly what is going on with this person. So this year, beginning now, we have 4 stelliums. The first is in Cancer, the second is in Leo, the third is in Virgo, and the final one is in Sagittarius. And that Sagittarius one just kind of lingers because Jupiter and Saturn kind of change places or shift. And I'll talk about that a lot more as we get close. What I do want to talk about is Cancer. When I first started my Twitter account, the People's Oracle, I like quickly gained a lot of followers because I would do these threads on signs. And my perspective and understanding of zodiac signs has shifted in nuanced and quite dramatic ways. But one of the fundamental things that is important to know about zodiac signs when I talk about them is that the signs are not the end goal. So it's not enough for me. I think it's intellectually lazy and inaccurate to say Cancer is moody because that is not really explaining anything. A lot of people are moody and they may or may not have Cancer in their birth chart. So to say Cancer is moody is not only intellectually lazy, it's pretty inaccurate. So my task, as I have crafted this system of sidereal astrology that is not Vedic and that is not copying tropical significations, has been to figure out what exactly is a zodiac sign. What is its function? The function of a zodiac sign is to tell us who is responsible for something. So that means right now the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all in Cancer. That means the moon is responsible for the sun. The moon is responsible for Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and whatever else decides to join, right? Which will be the moon tomorrow, I believe. So to say that the moon is responsible for so much right now is very, very telling. That begs the question, what is the moon? Who is the moon? The moon is always going to be a person. The moon is always going to be articulating your experience. I'm sorry, a planet is always going to be a person. And the moon specifically is women. It is women in positions of authority and influence. It is your mother. The moon is your physical body. And the moon is your immediate need for food, safety, and shelter. So the moon is also home. So we've heard over and over and over again over the past few weeks as these planets have gathered in Cancer, go home. You're not home here. You can't come here. You can't find safety and shelter here. Another word that has been implied in all of this is this idea of belonging. And belonging is this thing that is about people and place that provides your immediate needs of food, safety, and shelter. But to say that you don't belong somewhere is to say that you're not welcome or that you have not made a place for yourself. So these are all things that we're talking about and thinking about for obvious reasons. The various migrant and immigrant crises going across the world right now. And what I really wanted to talk about today with regard to the Cancer stellium is that you can really know what this means for you and also what it's activating in your chart by examining the position of the moon in your birth chart. Okay? So if you don't know, you can always go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click Sidereal birth chart and use the instructions there to cast your sidereal birth chart so you can know where your sidereal moon sign is. Lately, I've taken to saying always sidereal, never tropical. Nothing I say is ever, 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 excuse me, relevant or describing tropical anything. Okay? So, with that being said, when we observe all of these stelliums coming up, we want to become well acquainted with the planets that rule those signs in our birth chart. So we start with the moon. Where is the moon in the birth chart, in your birth chart? The moon in your birth chart is going to tell you about the way you were conditioned to respond to your own needs. Right? I'm going to say that again. The moon is going to articulate, the sign placement of the moon is going to articulate how you were conditioned to respond to your needs and to have your immediate needs met. The moon in your birth chart is going to articulate your relationship with your own body. The moon in your birth chart is going to articulate and tell us about your relationship with your instinct. Again, I use that word a lot lately, but that is the word for water. And when 5 planets in the sky are in water, then we know that that is something that we really should be focusing on. I think that one of the other contexts that's important for understanding this Cancer stellium with regard to the concept of instinct is that our own habitual adaptations that may or may not be supportive of our conscious intentions and goals are magnified to their largest right now. I'm going to say that again. Our instinct, meaning our adaptations and habits that are programmed in our cells, in our brains, right? That have been activated in our DNA by our environment and our experiences. The behaviors and perceptions that we have taken on based on our upbringing, right? Those things are loud right now. And it can be jarring because we really want to believe that we're doing stuff on purpose, that we are approaching our lives, our relationships, our jobs, our body with intention, that we're doing it on purpose, consciously aware of our goal, consciously aware of the outcome that we're seeking. Yet at this moment, because of Cancer, it is like Trigger City. It feels like every hidden wound, every trauma is being triggered by someone or something. And sometimes you may not be even aware of the ways that you are being triggered. When I say the word trigger, I'm saying that something outside of you, whether it is a relationship, a conversation, or circumstances, it brings up in you feelings and perceptions that are related to things that have happened to you in the past. That is what instinct is. In the new moon tarot divination video, one of the things that came up was this idea of believing your body. The moon is your body. And so when your moon is in a sign other than Cancer, there is always some filter or maybe even a block that you have to get to before you can really say, this is my body. So what I'm going to do right now is take a moment and talk about each of the 12 zodiac signs and what it means for the moon to be placed there. Okay? I'm going to start with Cancer because that's where the moon is at home. So when the moon is in Cancer in your birth chart, so when you are same, Papa Boko, same, like, because climate change ain't nowhere to go. We all gonna die. So moon in Cancer. This is the moon in its own sign, responsible for its own affairs and having the authority to execute. This is saying that your body is able to speak to you and you can hear it. This is saying that the sensations and experiences of your body have been validated by them being met by your primary caregivers. That you can hear your body. Sometimes, and this goes for any planet in its own sign, whether that's Sun in Leo, Mercury in Virgo, or Gemini, Venus in Taurus, or Libra, Mars in Aries or Scorpio, Jupiter in Pisces or Sagittarius, and Saturn in Aquarius or in Capricorn. Any planet in its own sign can very easily go rogue, meaning it can dominate and overtake parts of your life or you, right? So that when you have a planet in its own sign, it means it does not have to consider anybody or anything else in order to function. It has responsibility and it has the authority to execute it. And so it's not always a, quote, good thing to have a planet in its own sign because nothing can control that planet. So when you have the moon in Cancer, your instinct might speak louder than your intellect. Your instinct might undermine your will. Your instinct might challenge your capacity to interact and perceive the material world. Okay? So at this moment, if you have moon in Cancer, first of all, I'm sorry, it's a lot going on in your life and probably in your body too, because all of the planets are on top of it. Okay, let's move on to Leo. Whenever you have planets in Leo, it is pointing to dad. It is pointing to significant men in your life, husband. I have seen clients who have moon in Leo, and when I explain to them, tell me about your dad and the influence that he had on your home, and they're like, well, my mom was really the one who was ruling the home, but then when we dig deep, turns out dad was in the military. So they lived wherever dad worked, and if dad had to leave, then they had to get up and go, and home had to move. So Leo is always talking to us about man. One of the things that I forgot to say about moon in Cancer, though, is about mom. And it is about the authority and influence of mom in your life. When you have moon in Cancer, it's hard to compete with mom. And if it's not mom, it's your wife or a significant boss, right? Who's a woman. Okay, so Leo. Leo is always making the body subservient to the intellect. This is a really challenging placement because the moon wants you to feel your body. The moon wants you to believe your body. The moon wants you to pay attention to your body because your body is, right? Pain is a signal that something is going to harm you or kill you. So pain is a part of your survival instinct, right? Hunger is the signal that your body is running out of fuel or energy. And so your body needs you to hear it and to believe it. But see, what happens when you have the moon in Leo is that your intellect and your perception and judgment is superior and responsible for your body. So one of the things that you'll notice in these explanations about the moon is that the moon, whenever the moon is not in its own sign, it is really saying that you can't take your body at face value for some reason. Okay. So, moon and Leo, your intellect, significant men are even shaping your perception and experience of home and your physical body. That if you cannot perceive it with your own judgment, even though you feel it in your own body, that's going to be a challenge for you, right? Next, we have moon in Virgo. Oh, this is the tick, 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 tick. My body is a machine. I need 3,425.3 calories in order to gain approximately 12 pounds in 3 months, right? Like, this is Virgo. Virgo treats the body as a machine. Virgo, again, is about quantification, classification, organization, putting things in categories, needing to measure tangible evidence. So when you have the moon in Virgo, this is about treating your body. What is the function and what are the component parts of the body, right? There's one more thing I wanted to say, right? Again, Virgo, this is especially true for the moon in earth and fire signs, that you're disconnected from instinct, meaning that the instinct to react to pain and recoil from pain, for example, there's a disconnect, so that you might be able to tolerate pain, right? Because there is a disconnect between your instinct and your body. Okay. After Virgo is Libra. Now, this goes very much for Libra, and you'll notice this about all the moon and air signs, that when the moon is in an air sign, dissociation from the physical body is really, really, really a prominent theme I see. These are the people who forget to eat. These are the people who have irregular and dysregulated sleep schedules, because they are literally dissociated, meaning somebody unplugged the wire from like their, brain to their body. And so they don't feel when they're hungry. They don't feel when they're tired, or they might consume coffee or energy drinks just to get rid of the tiredness because they're disconnected, right? Whereas people who have the moon and water signs are hypersensitive to things, right? Especially Pisces and Cancer. So moon in Libra is all about the consensus around family and your body. A lot of times when you have moon in Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, there is this experience of having been talked out of your pain or your feelings, that your personal, unique, subjective experience of your body was undermined by a consensus outside of you. So that when you felt pain, no one responded to you as if you were in pain. And so maybe you thought, well, maybe I'm not in pain, right? So this is not necessarily an internal dialogue you consciously have with yourself. It's most likely an unconscious dialogue that has shaped your experience of your body. Oftentimes, moon in sidereal Libra, remember, always sidereal, never tropical. Moon in Libra are children of divorced parents. Now, a lot of people are children of divorced parents, but for moon in Libra, the idea of consensus around family rather than biological ties being so important is something that comes up frequently with moon in Libra. I've had clients with moon in Libra when their parents were divorced, they were asked what they wanted and how the time between parents should be split, right? That's a heavy responsibility. Next, we have Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio is in the sign of its fall. Now, I'm starting to feel like, sign of its fall, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly. Yes, boo. Never tropical. Don't know who that is. So moon is Scorpio. This means that the survival instinct to...
How long do I have left?
Oh, I didn't even put the timer on. I'll put it on now. Moon in Scorpio means that the survival instinct shapes your experience of your body. And this is to be differentiated from moon in Cancer, where it is a sense of belonging and deep biological ties to your mother and your family. that has to do with your relationship with your body. But for I'm trying to find this thing on my phone. But for but for shoot. But for Scorpio, one's individual survival is responsible for how and when and where they feel they belong. So with Moon in Scorpio, separation, likely a big move. That always happens with Moon in Scorpio, where there was a major separation from family members or mother, or a big move where you left your hometown or your place of birth. Moon in Scorpio places one's individual survival and safety above belonging. And that oftentimes with Moon in Scorpio, family is not safe, cannot, or does not meet one's needs, so one learns to do it yourself, right? There is a forced autonomy due to separation that often comes with Moon in Scorpio. Next is Moon in Sagittarius. Jupiter is responsible for the Moon in Sagittarius. And so that sense of family often expands beyond the limits of biological ties. Moon in Sagittarius might be from a religious family or a political or academic family. Moon in Sagittarius often has friends who become family, or their family community is larger than those who they are biologically related to. Moon in Sagittarius often has the experience of family being like this vacuum, where anybody who comes close to their family unit kind of becomes an adopted part. So there is the literal and figurative idea of adoption. Moon in Sagittarius can mean that other family members were prominent in raising you, like grandparents or other relatives. Moon in Sagittarius often has whoop whoop. Moon in Sagittarius often has a hard time perceiving the limits of their own body. Depending on the birth chart, Moon in Sagittarius can indicate political or religious ties that bond you to your family, or political or religious ties that estrange you from your family, depending on where your natal Jupiter is and any other aspects to your moon. Moon in, where are we? Capricorn, halfway through. Moon in Capricorn is in the sign of its detriment. Once upon a time, there was a baby, and when that baby was born, the whole world stopped to tend to that baby's needs and make sure that they had food, shelter, and safety. Every cry was responded to within appropriate time. All hunger was met. The end. That's the way it's, quote, supposed to go. But with Moon in Capricorn, sorry boo, the world did not stop for you. The same can be said for Scorpio. People who were born with Moon in Scorpio, Moon in Capricorn, when you were born, the world did not stop for you. Moon in Aries as well. The world kept going, and you had to find your place in it. You, instead of the world, your caregivers responding to your needs, you had to figure out how you were going to get your needs met within the limitations that were given to you. It's kind of like a pair of pants that grows with you versus a pair of pants that are fixed and rigid. And so you constantly have to figure out how to make do with what you have. So there's this sense of lack or frugalness in the basic needs of life, especially the feeling of belonging. Moon in Capricorn can often mean that they cannot feel their own needs, or they didn't. There's a self-denial that goes on with Moon in Capricorn often. I am doing all of these explanations because right now the moon is in, there are 4 planets in Cancer. Between August 3rd and August 9th, Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars will all be in Cancer. At the new moon in Cancer on July 31st, it will be the Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars all in Cancer. And so with your Cancer house filled right now, your moon gets really, 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 really loud. And so bringing up old stuff, yes. Triggering beef with your mama and your family, yes. making your body loud, triggering pain episodes. Yes, 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 yes. Your body is loud and your immediate needs are loud as well. So, moving on to Moon in Aquarius. What I often see with this placement is that the Aquarius moon person often feels a heavy sense of responsibility for their family. They feel like they have to be the caretaker, or, and I won't even say the adult, because it's not about necessarily maturity, it's more about this self determination. Aquarius moon often shows up in the chart of people who have life experiences that lead them to say, I am not my biology. I am not where I come from. I'm not whose last name that I have. Oh, Celeste, hug. Um, I am not my biology. I am not my mother. I am not my father. I am more than such and such's daughter. And so there is this striving to determine for the self a sense of identity and biological connection or sense of belonging. Um, Sense of belonging uh, that is self determined. Again, whenever you have the moon in an air sign, that's Aquarius, Libra, or Gemini, the dissociation from the body. Now, we could also say dissociation from the family. What does it mean to dissociate from the family? It means that you cannot perceive the connection between you and that family. This idea of separation. Um, Always with air. What does it feel like for you to be fully in your body? Have you ever fully been in your body, Aquarius moon, Libra moon, or Gemini moon? um, do you go to sleep on a schedule? Do you eat all the time? Can you feel your hunger? Do you know when you're tired, Aquarius moon, Libra moon, Gemini moon? Right. Let's move on. Pisces moon, that's me. Pisces moon often shows up in the charts of people who are adopted either by a step parent. I've seen that with like Pisces sun indicating a stepfather. I've also seen moon conjunct Jupiter indicating adoption, even if it's not in Pisces. But I've seen a lot of people for moon in Pisces indicating adoption. One of the interesting things about moon in Pisces is not being able to take biological ties at face value. So this is where like the half brother, half sister, stepmother, adoptive mother thing kind of comes in. When you take a family member at face value, you say this is my mother because she birthed me. You say this is my sister because we have the same mom and dad. But sometimes this is my mother because she signed the papers that gave her care of me, right? There was some other process involved in someone becoming your parent, like they married your mom, right? Moon in Pisces, again, just like Moon in Sagittarius, this sense of cannot feel the limits of my own body. The limits of my body extend beyond my physical boundary. And so Pisces moon is the number one sign to struggle with personal boundaries because they feel everything, and it takes a learning process to understand that everything you feel ain't you, boo. Um, One other thing that I wanted to say about Moon in Pisces is that is the placement I see most often in the charts of people who had like codependency with parents. And as it happens for so many of us, our parents are not always capable of responding to our needs and being responsible. They deal with grief, they deal with addiction, they deal with loss, and all of these other things that inhibit them from being the responsible parents they otherwise should be. And so these things show up in the birth chart as well, where, the uh, uh, where the mother, for example, was emotionally unavailable. And so the child learns to cherry pick, get bits and pieces of their needs met, but also having to adjust and adapt to the moods of the parents in order to get their needs met. The one thing that is so important to understand about the moon in your birth chart, no matter what sign it's in, it is that this is about survival. This is not about how you feel. Oftentimes we conflate feel with judge, right? Judge is your perception based on your identity and experience, right? And so when we say I feel, what we're saying is I judge this thing to be a certain way. The moon has absolutely nothing to do with that in your birth chart. The moon in your birth chart is your physical body. The moon in your birth chart, the first body you had was your mother. So the moon in your body, the moon in your birth chart represents mother. It represents the conditions of your upbringing, right? So we talked about all of these different placements so far of the moon and how you might have been conditioned or learned to respond to your own needs and even feel your own bodies based on the feedback, validation, or lack of validation you got from caregivers, right? So you asking me so many questions, JB Photos. You better book a reading. So let's move on. Next is Moon in Aries. This is one of my favorite placements to talk about because this is the one where people be like, oh my God. Now, I'm prefacing this again. Always sidereal, never ever tropical. I do not read tropical astrology. I do not post. I do not write. I do not predict using tropical astrology. Always sidereal. If you do not know your sidereal birth chart, do not go to Cafe Astrology or whatever these bogus websites and apps that have inaccurate ephemerises that they are gathering data from. Go to astral.com and figure it out, or go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click sidereal birth chart. I took screenshots, y'all, and wrote step-by-step directions for how to calculate your sidereal birth chart. Moon in Aries. This is separation from mother. This is the other placement where the world did not stop for you. Mama was running before she gave birth to you, might have been running while she was giving birth to you, and she kept on running after she gave birth to you, right? So this idea that Moon in Aries is selfish is really just kind of like, what? Y'all say anything. Moon in Aries is not about being selfish. It is about the world did not stop. And so you haven't ever learned to stop. You just keep going, right? The other thing with Aries moon, though, because there are people who they lived in the same house forever and ever. They didn't have the frequent moving around that is often indicated by Aries moon. The other way that this shows up is conflict and combativeness between the child and the mother, or between the mother and her family. Excuse me, there can be like the mother beefed with her mother or her family members and their separation, or the mother moved away, right? Or was away from family when she gave birth to the child. But Moon in Aries is autonomy, is responsible for belonging. So your physical autonomy, your capability to move is responsible for your body. Moon in Aries, frequently moving, children of military, might join the military yourself, can't get settled in one place because you get the itch to move, and that's cool. No judgment, just know, you know. So next we have Moon in Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus. But again, just like I said with the moon in Cancer or any other planet in a sign it supposedly likes, this is the planet most likely to go rogue in your chart. Oh my God, someone's bass is so loud. It's like shaking my whole house. It is so unnecessary. That person probably has permanent ear damage. Like how? Anyways, where are we? Moon in Taurus. Again, this is the moon in the sign of its exaltation, which means it has some borrowed authority here. If the moon is the physical body, Taurus talks to us about the ways that we might have to conform or adapt and look the part in order to get our needs met. For Taurus, no matter what sign planet is in Taurus, appearance is everything. The appearance, how you wear your hair, the tone of your voice, your style of dress is everything. I've got quite a few trans clients, And one of the things that I noticed very interestingly in their chart and any of my queer clients is this strange interplay between Venus and Mars. And what I've learned from my trans and queer clients is that everything is performance. Everything is performative. Gender is performative. Everything is performative. And so some of us are comfortable and are validated and feel good when we are our assigned gender, right? Some of us are not validated as our assigned gender. And so we learn to perform our assigned gender, even though we might feel more authentic, identify as, have the mind of the opposite gender of that with which that we were assigned. So that was just a tangent to talk about Taurus. I don't even know why, but Moon in Taurus. Oh, I know why. Because of this idea of performing belonging, right? For Taurus is always about the aesthetic consensus. What does society say I should look like? I should behave? How should I speak? What types of words should I use or not use? Should I get a tattoo or not? Should I wear my hair long or short? Are my lips big enough or are they not too big? Do I need some Botox or do I need some fillers? Right? These are all Taurus things and the ways that we perform. So Moon in Taurus is talking about how do I perform in order to get my needs met. And so the placement of Venus is going to be really important because let's say your Venus is in Taurus as well. Venus in Taurus as well. And so there becomes this really externally oriented sense of I am who I get applause for. I am who I get validated as, right? So let's move on to the last one, Moon in Gemini. I've alluded to this placement a lot as I've talked about the Moon in air signs. And Moon in Gemini is classic. It's 3:00. Have I eaten yet today? Moon in Gemini is, oh man, it's 4:13 in the morning and I gotta leave for work at 6. Right? Classic Moon in Gemini. There is a dissociation from the body. I often wonder about Moon in Gemini and Moon in air signs being a consequence of either not having your body validated or maybe having your ability to perceive your own body co-opted, meaning before you can even get a read on if you're hungry, somebody's like, you want some food? Here, right? And so if somebody's not there regulating for you, you kind of start to lose track, right? Mercury is very easily distracted. So Moon in Gemini, because it is under the responsibility or care of Mercury, can be distracted and dissociated from the physical body. Moon in Gemini can mean access to education is really important, and it is how your needs are primarily met. Moon in Gemini can also mean that you were raised by more than one woman, like your mother and grandmother, or your grandmother and an auntie. Gemini can often mean multiples of things. So you might have multiple women who have played a decisive role in your upbringing. So that is my video. That's all I have to say about this. There is a new moon in Cancer on Wednesday. Mercury goes back into Gemini tomorrow, and it will stay there parked at 29 degrees until August 3rd. So tomorrow should be a really interesting day. I'm trying to think, when does the moon leave Gemini? The moon leaves Gemini tomorrow evening. Yes, so tomorrow evening, moon is going to be at 29 Gemini and Mercury is going to be at 29 Gemini, and that's going to be triggering all kind of stuff. So tomorrow should be a very, very, very interesting day. As I've said throughout this whole Mercury retrograde, watch your mouth. But also, you know, everyone is in their feelings, and that's okay. Everyone is in their feelings, and everyone is saying all kinds of things because they're in their feelings, and that's okay. So this brief dip of Mercury back in Gemini should be an interesting fresh air for us, given so many planets are currently in water signs. Follow me on Twitter at People's Oracle. You can book a reading at thepeoplesoracle.com. I've got all kind of goodies in my store, and I hope to be going live soon again with y'all now that it seems like things have quieted down a little bit. Have a happy Monday. Bye.